The Walking Dead has had a lot of big characters like Rick, Daryl, Michonne, Negan, and many more. But what about the ones you don't remember? The ones who have just disappeared with no big scenes or exaggerations like their death? Well, today, in this video, we're going over every forgotten character in The Walking Dead and what really happened to them. Let's start with someone who came from a full circle just to get immediately taken out. Morales. Now, Morales was one of the original Atlanta survivors. He helped Rick and the group early on in season 1, even calling him officer friendly. But when the group decided to head to the CDC, Morales didn't believe in any chance for safety. Instead, he said,
"We have family in Birmingham. We want to be with our people.
We'll take the chance."
And that would be the last time we would ever see him. But if you are a true Walking Dead fan, you would know that something unexpected happens later on. Fast forward in season 8, episode 2, The Damned, Morales comes out of nowhere and puts a gun to the back of Rick's head. And the voice of the man sounded familiar to Rick, soon realizing it was Morales all along. He later goes on to tell Rick, aka Officer Friendly, about what had just happened to his family, literally only saying,
"We never made it to Birmingham."
Rick would go on to try and persuade Morales to join their group, but to Morales, nothing mattered anymore. He is now Negan. Right as he got done speaking, Daryl shoots Morales in the back of the head with his crossbow. Now, honestly, the show writers bringing Morales back as a surprise was a genius idea, but as abrupt as his death was, it really left fans questioning why he was even brought up. But Morales wasn't the only character from the early days who disappeared. What about someone who never made it past the pilot? Dunn. Now, Dunn was Morgan's son, and one of the first people that Rick ever meets in this apocalyptic world. We only got to see him as just a scared little kid trying to survive. But after that first episode, we never understood whatever really happened to him. Later on in the show, in season 3, episode 12, Clear, Morgan tells Rick the awful truth about Dunn. He was bitten by his own mother after she turned, and Morgan couldn't build up the guts to kill his own infected wife. That moment really made Morgan become a train wreck throughout the whole entire show, as it caused Morgan to basically go insane mentally and physically, even trying to kill Rick. Even though we never saw Dunn get bit, lots of people today always wonder why the show never shown Dunn get bit. And it leaves the question, why didn't Morgan kill his son? Now, from someone who vanishes early, what about someone who vanishes way too late with zero explanation? Heath. Now, Heath showed up in season 6 as a part of Alexandra's supply team. Now, Heath had some major comic book importance and great chemistry with Tara. It seemed like the show was building something special with him. Then, in season 7, episode 6, they go on a typical supply run, but everything goes south when Tara falls off the bridge getting knocked out in the water, and then Heath being separated by the walker trap and having to fight off walkers. Now, from that scene, we all thought as fans that Heath had just got bit and dead, but that's not the case. Even after Tara returns to the bridge, she only finds a card that says PPP. We later found out off screen that Heath was taken by the CRM, but the actual reason the actor who plays Heath, Corey Hawkins, was he got busy with other roles in movies like Straight Outta Compton and 24 Legacy. I gotta be honest, Heath was such a mystery, but over time, we've all forgotten about him. And speaking of people who just faded away, let's talk about the girl who led Oceanside and then drifted off the map, Sydney. Now, Sydney helped run Oceanside and first showed up when Tara washed ashore. In the same episode, Heath went missing. She was kind and strong, also not letting Rachel kill Tara. But after the Saviors wiped her family and all the men on Oceanside, Sydney convinced her group and the leader to help out the battle to take out the Saviors. Then by season 9, she was kind of just around, but then she also wasn't. The show kept on, and we do see her last appearance in season 9, episode 15, The Calm Before, as a leader of the Oceanside group. But from there on, we never see her again, or the Oceanside. It was really weird yet subtle disappearance the show decided to do. Some people even said that the Oceanside made the show boring and slow-paced. Now, as some crazy appearance to a subtle disappearance, what about one person who almost felt too quiet for the show to even keep? Eduardo. Eduardo was a hilltop guard who stood next to Jesus most of the time. He didn't really talk much, but he was always there with a spear watching the gates. Then in season 9, he's just gone. Now, Carol randomly mentions that he left Hilltop, but we never found out where he went or why. And that's the last time we ever hear from him. Even though Eduardo is probably a name you've never heard of, and honestly to me it isn't either, it has always left me to wonder, where had he truly gone? And is he infected? At least Eduardo had a name and a few lines. Our next guy lasted years and no one even remembers his name. Scott joined Alexandria in season 6, then got injured during a mission. Even though he was never in any major roles or scenes, he's technically in a ton of episodes, expanding all the way to the finale, but after season 8, he never speaks again. Scott just always appears in the background like a Walking Dead extra that somebody forgot to write out. The man survived with the group for years, and I bet you've never even noticed him. Let's move on from someone who said nothing to someone who had a lot to say, then vanished in one of the coldest scenes ever. Arat was one of Negan's top soldiers, brutally killing all our closely loved characters, and even shooting a kid because Simon said so. After the misfire of bullets, she decided to change. Now in the episode, Still Gonna Mean Something, she tried staying close to the community and even started to rebuild, but she had some serious problems and probably a lot of ops. Then she was secretly executed by Sydney and Oceanside for her past crimes. To be honest, Arat really did deserve it. She acted like a pet to Negan and Simon by obeying whatever they said, and I'm kind of glad she's gone. Next, a character that went missing and was later found as a walker. Sophia was also a part of the Atlanta Survivor group, just with her mom Carol and abusive dad Ed. With the Atlanta group moving and following Ed's death, Sophia goes missing while the group travels on the highway. This caused mainly Daryl and the rest of the group to go searching for her. Almost 2 whole seasons go by of continuous searching, again mainly by Daryl, which was pretty frequently shown throughout season 2. Yet all the work just to later found out in episode 7, pretty much dead already. Now, as the title goes, Shane opens the barn to find out Herschel had been keeping walkers inside his barn. And the walker who was last to step out of the barn was the one and only Sophia. Now this idea by the creators of the show, who brought tons of controversy and theories among the community, where did Sophia really go after she went missing? And how did she get bit? For now, those questions will forever be unsolved, and Sophia's return as a zombified little girl will forever be thought of. Now here's someone who never got a storyline, but managed to survive the entire apocalypse. Barbara. Now, she was in Alexandria from the beginning and somehow made it all the way to the end, but you probably don't even remember her because she never had a single scene that mattered. She's in the background of meetings, dinners, and battles, and so on and so forth, but Barbara had no significance within the show. Even in the comics, Barbara just really played as an NPC who had no purpose, but she was just always there. Then this kind of reminds me of the clown from Amazing World of Gumball, where he's just always there and he always brings up some kind of mystery. And I mean, to be honest, look at her. I mean, she kind of does look like the clown. Now, from a background survivor to a guard who had some real screen time and then disappeared without a word. Cal. Now, Cal worked security at Hilltop. He was the guy who opened the gate and actually had some funny lines. I thought he was a decent character to have around. Even for the moments that Gregory, the leader of Hilltop, would slip up or make some stupid decisions, Cal would always be there to say something or even protect the group. But after season 9, he just sort of vanishes and nobody mentions him. Now, Cal could have been silently killed in the battle on Hilltop by Simon's men, but it was never really confirmed. Now, let's just keep going with another character who quietly ran things behind the scene until the show just moved on. Nora. While writing the script, I honestly did not know who Nora was until now. Don't judge me. Anyways, Nora was a member of Alexandria. I know most people who are in Alexandria don't really have main scenes or special characters, but Nora appears in Fear of the Walking Dead, Tales of the Walking Dead, and so much more. I didn't even know about her. But she was also like another NPC. She was just sort of in the background, playing as one of those special characters that you'd only see once or twice noticeably, but then they'd just be in the background forever. And now for one of the weirdest characters. He only had 1 episode and somehow made everything worse in a short time. Brandon was a prison guard for Alexandria, mainly guarding and making sure Negan doesn't escape. But all things go bad to the point of Brandon idolizing Negan because he later found out that his dad was a savior. As Negan becomes free and starts helping the group, Brandon follows around Negan, obsessing over his past, mentioning the saviors, and even acting like one. He even goes as far as killing a mother and a daughter to prove to Negan that he can be a savior. This triggered Negan so much that he literally flat out killed Brandon. This had got to be one of the stupidest characters I've seen yet, but he honestly deserved it. But at least Brandon had an ending. Anna didn't even get that. Anna was introduced in season 4 as a survivor with a limp and a hopeful mindset, later joining Rick on a supply mission, only to later later be separated, then found again, but it's only her leg. Not many people got to know Anna, me neither, but although she was barely shown, the fact the creators decided to give her a death like that is kind of crazy. Next, a character who actually had an emotional death, but quickly forgotten anyways. Denise. Denise was Alexandra's new doctor. She was only there because the main doctor was a very psycho man who had a drinking problem and even tried to kill Rick. But no matter what kind of problems came up, Denise was able to help. Even though it was obvious she was not fit for the job, Denise would also have her moments. When the walkers flooded Alexandria and the survivor group of wolves invaded, she got captured and dragged outside as an attempt to bring a doctor to their group. Many fans would have thought Denise would scream or even get bit by a walker, but she did the unthinkable by just staying calm and acting nonchalant throughout the entire situation and somehow managing to survive and help the rest of the group. Now, a few episodes later, where Rosita, Daryl, and herself are out scavenging, Denise would be abruptly shot in the back of the head by a familiar arrow. The scene was really brutal and seriously heartbreaking. Following Denise's death, what about a character who we all know of and even had some major roles? Tobin. Now, Tobin worked construction and briefly dated Carol, even sleeping with her. He was kind of like that character you relied on in certain moments. Tobin was a true survivor, and honestly, I still remember him to this day. But sadly, in the episode Do Not Send Us Astray, also following Gavin's death, Tobin was one that was also pushed away. He later silently turned in his sleep, and the person to end his life completely was the one and only Carol. Oh man, am I gonna miss those acorn cookies that she brought over. Tobin wasn't the only forgotten character by his partner. Let's talk about Aaron's boyfriend, Eric. Eric and Aaron were the first couple in the show, first appearing when Rick's group were out stranded in the small barn, and later being confronted while he had an injured ankle. We really never seen Eric throughout most of the show. Now, Eric later died during a firefight and turned into a walker off screen. Aaron sees him and walks away. Now, when it comes to a sussy character like Eric, I don't expect anyone to really think about him, but is he still alive as a walker? And is he still gay? Now, remember when Negan had a pregnant wife at the end of the series? Yeah, whatever happened to Annie? Annie was Negan's wife in season 11. He got her pregnant and built trust within the group. Despite Negan's past, Annie didn't care about what had happened. She only cared for Negan and her kind. But just as the creators of the show love to do it, they leave us on a cliffhanger and we never know what Negan's baby even looks like, or even the name. Now, maybe in later spin-offs we will learn, but for now, it's a mystery. Now let's go on to talk about two prisoners who came in and came off fast. Now, Oscar was calm and loyal, being one of Rick's helping hands, while Axel was a funny and weird guy who almost seemed like a pervert at times. There were prisoners who joined Rick's group in season 3. Oscar gets shot, then Axel gets sniped mid-sentence. Both are dead before the season ends, and nobody ever brings them up again. Now, we end off with one of the most forgettable characters of all, a guy whose whole purpose was to die in the first 15 minutes. Carter was introduced in season 6, first being introduced as one of Alexandria's members, but something seemed off. He didn't like how Rick's group was. So, when the horde at the quarry became an issue, Carter brought up a plan to the others to sabotage Rick, which later turned out to not be in his favor. After building the wall, his plan actually seemed to work, but as he's running away, he later gets snatched by a walker and get torn into pieces. Yeah, talk about karma. Well, there you have it. All the most forgotten characters in The Walking Dead. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing and maybe refer to me to a friend. But for now, adios amigos!